Alright, I wanted to start by saying thanks for watching these videos, guys. It should save us some time throughout this unit to spend more time reviewing factoring, which we typically have difficulty on, and then it should allow us to have some extra time to review for the tests in the unit as well. So, the first section is section 311, which actually is just a review from Math 1. So you're going to simplify an expression. You're going to identify the terms, the coefficients, and the constants in the expression, and then you're going to determine whether that expression is a quadratic expression. All right, so in your books, if you could turn to page 10 and write this expression down right here, 7x squared plus 3x minus 2. Write down all this information that you see, and then unpause this, and then we'll go through it. Alright, so first, your terms, remember, is everything that's separated by a plus or minus sign. So we can actually separate them just by circling everything in here. If we don't leave out anything, meaning the plus and the minus operations, you can see there's three terms. So when I'm listing them out, I'm just going to make sure that I separate them with a comma. So here are your three terms. Make sure you put -2. Your coefficients, remember, are the number in front of your variable. So x squareds, I have 7 of them, so that's my coefficient. X's, I have 3 of them, so that's my coefficient. This number has no variable, so that's what my constant is. It will always be the same no matter what x is. This function has 3 terms, so it is a trinomial. And what type of function is this? It is quadratic, because this term right here is x squared. So my value of a is 7, my value of b is 3, and my value of c is 2. Alright, so that one shouldn't have been too bad. It should have been review, and it was already simplified for us. If you go to page 11, we get an expression that looks like this, that we have to simplify, identify the terms, identify the coefficients, the constants, and determine whether it's quadratic. Now, you can't do any of that until you simplify this expression. So you should be able to see that there's some distributive property that we need to do. So if you distribute the 6 to both of those terms, you get 6x minus 6. Make sure to distribute a negative x here to both of those terms. So you get negative 3x plus 2x squared. Be careful, that's x times x. And then plus 12. Combine your like terms. I have a 2x squared is my leading term. I have a 6x and a minus 3x, so I'm left with positive 3x. And then I have a negative 6 and a positive 12, so I'm left with positive 6. So, identify the terms. If I circle everything and make sure I bring the operation with it, I can see I have 3 terms. They are 2x squared, and I should be writing this in descending order. 3x and positive 6. My coefficients, remember, are the numbers in front of the variables. They tell me how many variables I have. So I have 2x squareds and I have 3x's. Make sure you don't take the x squared and the x with it, otherwise you're just identifying a term. Alright, so next, identifying constants. That would be 6 because it's not next to any variable. And then classify the expression as a monomial, binomial, or trinomial. There are 3 terms, so it is a trinomial. And then lastly, determine whether the expression is a quadratic expression. It is, because it can be written in the form ax squared plus bx plus c. Remember, you're really looking for that x squared term in order for it to be a quadratic expression. Alright, so we're actually going to go down and do example 3 before example 2. This is on page 12. Alright, so it says a fence surrounds a park in the shape of a pentagon. Pentagons have 5 sides. The side lengths of the park in feet are given by the expression. Here's 1, 2, 3, 4, and there's your fifth side. Find an expression for the perimeter. Remember, perimeter is when you add up all your sides of the park, and then identify the terms, the coefficients, the constants. Remember, you cannot identify these unless your expression is simplified. So why don't you try this one by yourself? Add up all 5 sides, simplify it, see if you can identify these 3 things. And then unpause it and check your answer. Alright, so I wrote this out for you guys to see. So here's my 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sides. When you add up all your like terms, you get 2x squared plus 15. Constants canceled out, so your perimeter is equal to 2x squared plus 15x. Make sure you put parentheses around it and whatever the units may be. Actually, it should be feet. Sorry. Alright, so if I want to identify everything, I can say that my terms are 2x squared and 15x. Make sure we're separating those with commas. My coefficients, we can just simplify, write it like this. My coefficients are 2, I have 2x squareds, and 15 because I have 15x's. And then my constants, there are none. And then the last thing says, is this expression quadratic? And we can say, yes, this is quadratic. And this is quadratic because it can be written in the form ax squared plus bx plus c. Mostly because, not mostly, because of this ax squared term right there. Alright, let's go to the next page. Actually, sorry, let's go back up and do example 2. Alright, example 2 says that you're going to translate the verbal expression. So we're going to take triple the difference of 12 and the square of x, and then we're going to increase that result by the sum of 3 and x. We're going to translate this into an algebraic expression so that we can identify the terms, the coefficients, the constants, and determine if it's quadratic. I know that you guys have some difficulty when you write these, and it's kind of difficult to figure out where to start, so here's my suggestion. Find where you can see an operation written, like difference, and where it tells you what to do with it. So for instance, this says the difference of 12 and the square of x. I can write that whole thing out. Notice I'm skipping triple because I didn't know what to do the triple of. So difference means subtraction, so I'm going to do the difference of 12 and the square of x means x squared. And then if I go back, I want to take triple this. So this right here, I want triple it. And I want triple the whole thing, that's why I put parentheses around it. Then it says that I want to increase, so increase is addition, increase the result by the sum of 3 and x. So sum is addition as well. So the sum of 3 and x means 3 plus x. And anytime you write something like that, you should put parentheses around that quantity. And then if you go back, I want to increase this answer by that sum. So here's my expression. I need to simplify it. So distributive property. I get 36 minus 3x squared. Over here it's just addition, so I can drop the parentheses 3 plus x. I should rewrite this in standard form, so negative 3x squared plus x, and 36 and 3 makes 39. And now I can go through and identify my terms. My terms are 1, 2, 3. So negative 3x squared, x, and 39. My coefficients, again, are my numbers in front. They're my numbers in front of my variables. I have negative 3x squareds, and I have 1 x. And then my constant is 39, the number that will not change no matter what x is. Okay, lastly, is this expression quadratic? Yes, because it can be written in the form of ax squared plus bx plus c. Right there is your x squared term. Alright, so the problem-based task. See what you guys remember about triangles. So, it says that Shannon wants to decorate the triangular deck. I don't know why you'd have a triangular deck, but behind her house. The base of the triangle is 10 meters shorter than the altitude, so that means subtraction. So we're going to draw a triangle, and I'm actually going to draw 2 of them, so in case you don't see or understand the first one. So there's my triangle. I'm going to make that my right angle. I'm also going to draw a triangle that looks like this. And then I'm going to bring down the altitude, so this is the height. which makes a right angle. If you remember back to triangles, to find the area of a triangle, we need to do 1/2 times the base times the height. So it says the base of the triangle is 10 meters shorter than the altitude. What are the terms, the factors, the coefficients of the quadratic expression that represents the area of the deck, which is why here's your formula, so write all that down. So what we have is, so if this is my triangle, I can say that this right here is my altitude, it's my height. It says that the base of the triangle is 10 meters shorter. So if this is my height, x, then this is 10 meters shorter than that. So this is x minus 10. Or I can look over here and say if this is my altitude and this is x, then my base right here is 10 meters shorter than this. So whatever this is 10. This entire length is 10 meters shorter. Regardless, my area is going to be 1/2, and you can see in both of these my base is x minus 10 times my altitude, or 1/2 times my base times my height. Height's the same thing as the altitude. Alright, so why don't you see if you can pause this, see if you get an answer for this. Alright, so here's what you get when you simplify your expression. So I first did 1/2 times x minus 10, and I got this answer right here. And then I distributed this x to 1/2 x and got 1/2 x squared, and then x times -5 and got minus 5x. So this is my simplified expression. So now I can go through and start labeling my terms. I have two terms. They are 1/2 x squared and -5x. And then I have two coefficients. I have 1/2 of an x squared, and I have a -5x. Remember, don't bring the x squared and the x with it, otherwise you're just labeling terms. And then my constants, I don't have any, so none. And then it already told us that this was a quadratic expression, which we can see based on the fact that this right here is ax squared. Alright? So, I thought we could go through one or two of these. You can write these down on page 14. So pause it, write down number 6, and write down number 7, just for a little extra practice, because these are going to be on your homework. So when you're done with that, unpause this. So again, try to pick out in here things that you can actually find the operation of, like the product, the sum, the difference. So right here it says the product of 9 and x. Well, product means multiplication. So that means I'm multiplying 9 and x, so I can just write that as 9x. And then we're decreasing this by, and then there's no numbers there, so that's why I want to skip to sum of 8 and the square of x, because I can actually write that. So I'm adding 8 and the square of x. So 8 and the square of x, and remember that's just x squared. So I'm adding these two things. Notice that I'm decreasing what I underlined. So I wrote this, and I want to decrease. So when I do that, I want to say, here's what I wrote, and I want to decrease these quantities. We need that. We need these in parentheses so that I can distribute that negative. So when I simplify this, I get 9x. Remember, this minus sign makes the 8 negative, and it makes the x squared negative. So I get a -8 minus x squared. So positive turns to negative, positive turns to negative. If I rewrite this in descending order, it's -x squared plus 9x and minus 8. So if I wanted to go through, I could say my terms are -x squared, comma, 9x, comma, -8. My coefficients are -1, +9, and my constant is -8. And this is a quadratic expression because of this ax squared. Alright, try the next one on your own, see if you can pause it, see if you can do the whole thing here, simplify it, and then unpause it and see how you did. Alright, so again, pick out what you can find the operation, or what you can actually write. So right now it says double, and then there's no numbers after it, so I want to pick out sum of 2 and x, so that's addition. So I want to add 2 and x in the order that it was written. And then I go back and I say I want double this, which means I want to put parentheses around this, and I want to write a 2 in front of it. And then I want to increase this by 1/2 x squared. Well, I can write 1/2 x squared. That's 1/2 x squared. This is the same as saying the square of x. And notice that I want to increase these two things that I wrote. So this is what I wrote, so I can throw parentheses around this and then increased in between them. Okay, if I simplify it, distribute, I get 4 plus 2x, and then the addition here, I can just drop that plus 1/2 x squared. If I write this in descending order, it's 1/2 x squared plus 2x plus 4. So I have three terms, 1/2 x squared, 2x, and 4. I have the coefficients of just 1/2 and 2, and then my constant is positive 4. And then this is quadratic because this is ax squared right here. All right, so you guys are going to need to, we're going to skip this. You guys are going to need to do this worksheet, worksheet 311. It's actually called worksheet 3.1 because it includes both of these 3.1 sections. You're not going to be able to do it until you watch the next video, which is on section 312. So watch that video next, and then the homework assignments are combined on this, so you're not doing both of these assignments and having to do as many problems. All right, so thanks.